Hello, this is host creator Madeline Cheney, and I am so excited to be back and to kick off season 6. We've been hard at work during the summer break, getting episodes ready and securing sponsorships, and I've been working with my awesome ambassador team to get funding for the podcast and to spread the word about it. So we've been busy, and I'm so excited about the growth that we're seeing. With the funding that we've been receiving, working with really awesome companies, I've been able to hire out childcare for the first time ever. And that has allowed me to reclaim some free time, which has really been the first time in the last 2.5 years of having the podcast, because previously I've been, spending all nap times and bedtimes working on the podcast. So that has been so good for my mental health. And honestly, I think it's also helped the podcast because I'm able to be more creative with it and, think more clearly because I'm not dead tired all the time. And so it's been so great. So I hope that you've all had a great summer as well, that you've had some, maybe some trips in there and just some time with your family. And I hope that you are as excited as I am to be back at having fresh new episodes. I've also been excited to see that quite a few of you have been listening to the rebroadcasted episodes. And that makes me happy because, I selected those because they were so popular when they were released and I knew that they hit home. And I'm really happy that those of you who weren't able to listen to them yet were able to consume them and, gain value from those while I've been working hard behind the scenes getting things ready for season 6. So I'm excited to introduce season 6's theme. But before I do, I kind of want to give a refresher especially for those of you who are new listeners as of last season, which I know are quite a few of you, which is really exciting. So an extra special welcome to those of you who are a little bit newer in the audience. So in order to add a little bit of structure and depth and intentionality with the podcast episodes, I've chosen to divide it out into seasons. And we have 3 themes that we kind of cycle through for each season. So theme 1 is kind of more focused on the child and, more on the medical side of that. And so, episodes like Confessions of a NICU Nurse and What Your Doctor Wants You to Know But Doesn't Tell You, those ones are in that theme. And theme 2 is about how our child and, their disabilities, their diagnoses, how that has affected us personally, which was our previous season's theme of season 5. And then a third theme that we cycle through, which is season 6's theme, is all centered around how our relationships have been affected by our child and their disabilities and medical complexities. And I just love this one. I'm really excited to go through this theme again because I think, it for all of us, 100% of us, have had relationships affected by this because, everything is affected. And some of those relationships have been improved because of this. And some of them have, deteriorated because of this. I know a lot of us have lost friends over having a child with disabilities because suddenly we can't connect or they drop off the face of the earth. And then, some are just different. And so I'm really excited to examine this in each episode. So some of examples of the topics that we have for you this season are, talking about siblings, about being a single medical mom. This guest, her marriage ended just in the thick of it when she was finding out that her daughter had life-threatening conditions. And so, we dive into that. I have an episode coming up about family planning, where the guest and I go through each of the different scenarios that different families choose and allow a few guests to kind of share their reasoning and their thoughts behind it and, the pros and cons that they've seen from it. For those of you who are contemplating, should I have more kids or should I not? And, all the stuff that goes into that, because I know that's something that's a really big deal to a lot of us. And so, those are a few examples of topics that we're going to cover this season. And I'm just so stoked about them. So per tradition, I am going to share a little bit more about the first 4 episodes coming your way of season 6, starting next week. I'll explain a little bit about each episode, and then you even get to hear an extended clip of that episode. And I just hope that you get excited about these episodes and about the season in general. So the first one is Chelsea Denham's story episode. She has 2 sons that were born with the same rare airway birth defects. And in her story episode, she talks about what it was like to be blindsided with each son's birth and subsequent diagnosis.
He said to me, like, something just didn't seem right. Like, every time he breathed in, like, his whole body was shaking. And he's like, I kept asking the nurse, like, what is wrong here? Like, is this okay? Like, is this okay? And she just kept putting it off. Like, yeah, sometimes they have mucus in their lungs and they're just trying to clear it out. Like, this is normal, all this stuff. And he was like, by the 5th time, I was like, I've never seen a newborn, but this just doesn't seem right to me. And then by that time, I was being wheeled back into the room, and they had already called the NICU to have someone come and check him out.
The second episode is her special topic episode. And really quick, for those of you who don't know, when I have a parent on the show, I like to take 2 episodes to cover everything they have to share. So the first one is their story episode, like the one I just introduced for Chelsea, which is just what it sounds like. And then the second episode is the special topic episode, and that is where the guest gets to go into depth on something they are passionate about or they care deeply about or something they've learned. And we get to learn from each other or just feel really seen. So Chelsea's special topic episode is all about the ways that her relationship with her extended family, both her siblings and parents and her husband's siblings and parents, have been affected by her children having medical complexities and disabilities and not having a whole lot in common anymore.
If your family is upset about a boundary that you have put in place, that is not your fault, and they will get over it eventually. You don't need to explain yourself of why you want things a certain way when you're going through a diagnosis or having something big happen. It's not your responsibility to express why you want all of these things to happen or why you don't want people to ask you questions. It should just be automatic, and they should be okay with it.
The third episode is with Rare Mama Libby Holly. In this episode, we talk about the parable of the pain scale, and that is something that Libby came up with and sent to me, and I was like, man, we need to make an episode about this, which is about, the pain scale at doctors' offices when they ask you, can you rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10? And we talk about, the perception of pain, emotional pain that we have, and how that is totally recalibrated as we have pretty traumatic events with our children, and the ways that we can still have empathy for others, even if all of a sudden their pain seems like nothing compared to what we're going through. And I just love this episode.
In the middle of one of our really hard moments, another friend with a child was telling me about something that seemed so insignificant and so small in comparison to what I was dealing with Lennon. And I could see how hard it was for her, but I couldn't empathize with her because all I saw was, how can you be talking to me about something so small when I'm going through something so big? And then something came to me as we're looking at it through our lens and through our experiences. We don't realize that we have kind of calibrated that pain scale to what we've been through, and then we're holding everybody else to that standard.
And then lastly is my first solo episode of season 6, all about the obsession that our culture has about having healthy babies, as is manifested by the phrase, all we want is a healthy baby. And how that feels to a lot of us when we hear that. All I want is a healthy baby. I included a few responses of how it feels when you hear this phrase. One mom said, "I get an immediate heaviness in the pit of my stomach." Another said, "Feels like a gut punch." Another one, "It made sense to me until it didn't, and now it just hurts to hear." And then lastly, "It feels like they choose anything in the world rather than my child and the life we have." You guys, I am so excited to share season 6 with you and all the awesome topics and guests that are coming your way. Consider season 6 officially kicked off. Join us next week for the first official episode of season 6 with Chelsea. See you then.